Hello guys. Can you hear me? Good day,
Can you,
Mr.
can you hear me?
Professor. Yes, I can hear you. Well, it seems like your network is a bit cloudy.
Oh boy.
I can hear you. Are you?
I
Are
can hear you
you?
too.
Okay. I believe you're prepared for this section, right?
I'm still preparing on my boss. I'm still going through my point.
All right. For the sake of your information, this video will be posted after this conversation, so it's saved on the YouTube platform. That is why I decided that YouTube will be more preferable to you.
I understand. No, I understand why you decided to choose YouTube, but the thing is, Google Meet all these things. If you had just created a Google Meet, if you can have someone that will record it on screen record, at the end of the day, you get it and you still post it back. That's the thing about Google Meet. That's just the thing.
Okay, so we are still waiting for participants of the who are joining the meeting to join the meeting. We're
Okay.
waiting for
So,
participants.
how many persons can enter the stream?
It's not limited. The
Unlimited,
number
right?
of persons that can yes that can join this section is not limited.
No, well, then. You say it's 8 o'clock. 8 minutes, 6 minutes from now. What is the modus operandi? Who is introducing who? Who is starting first and concluding aspect?
Of course, I'm your host, so I have to start first. But can
Okay.
you see me? Can you see me clearly?
Yeah, I can see you. I can see you clearly. Can you see me clearly? May I?
Yes,
I
I
don't
can.
know. This might light my flicker very soon. My light
I
my
can
flicker
see.
very. So once it goes off, once the light goes off, once the light goes off, I'll just you'll not be hearing my voice. You'll not see me because of darkness now.
Okay,
No alternative power
two
supply here.
persons have joined the
Our
meeting.
journey is bad.
Two persons have joined the meeting.
Hmm?
Two persons have joined the
The person
meeting.
have joined already.
Yes, I believe you can see that
Yeah.
notification from your end. So please, if you have
Yeah,
joined
I
the
can see it
meeting,
up there.
just
I can see it up there.
comment your name, comment your name and your institution as well, where you're joining us from. You're welcome. I can see new persons are joining the meeting. If you're just joining, comment your name and where you're joining us from. If you're a student, comment your student, undergraduate, comment your course so that we'll get to know you also. You're welcome to this live section on YouTube. So this section is focused on we're looking at the US, the acts that have been perpetrated by US in Venezuela government. So we're going to be analyzing it with respect to international law. We're going to be analyzing the acts of US with respect to international law. We are aware of the recent happening where the US president invaded Venezuela and captured the president and took the president to their country and filed criminal charges against the president, narco terrorism, and working with gangs. So, as international law students, we're here to look at the legal aspects of the decision of the President of the United States and look at it side by side with international law if there is a breach of international law. So, I have with me My name is Arinze Isdore. I'm a law graduate and I am also a student of international law, a passionate student at that matter. I also have with me Goodluck Isaac. He used to be the course rep when we were in undergraduate studies. Cool. And he as well is enthusiastic about international law. So I thought it's very, 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 very good that we come together as scholars, not to to criticize the U.S. government per se, but to analyze their decision with respect to international law, having regards to the fact that we understand that most persons are not so much um, used to international law, most lawyers. So we deemed it necessary for us to have this conversation. Don't forget the topic we are treating is US invasion in Venezuela, an international law perspective. So while we're waiting for other participants to join, we are starting by 8 o'clock. If you're just joining this section, can we do well? Good luck, are you with me? Mr. Good luck. Mr. Good luck, are you with me? Please, can you hear me? Can I see some comment on the comment section? Can you hear me? Okay, someone there says she can hear me. Happiness. Okay, thank you very much for the feedback. Okay, so okay, thank you for the feedback. I can see, I can hear you said hi. Okay, happiness. I can see you. Oyo Dele. Okay, so good luck. Can you hear me from your end, Mr. Good luck?
Yeah, yeah, I could hear you. I could hear you. Hi, happiness. Are your daily fellow happiness? How are you doing? Hope you had a very nice day today. I hope you went to church.
Okay, so without wasting much time, we are going to proceed. We are going to proceed. So quickly, um, good luck. You can just take an opening prayer for us for this section. Hello, are you with me? Good luck. Okay, so let's just commit this section into the hand of God. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for give us wisdom and understanding to understand everything we are going to go through. We pray that you give us the wisdom to understand and to contribute meaningfully. We pray this section shall be smooth. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, I hope everyone can hear me now. Please, if you can hear me, just comment yes, comment yes on the comment section. Let me know you're with me. So today we are looking at a very, very controversial issue in international law. We are looking at a very controversial issue in international law, which is the decision of the US under the President Donald Trump administration to capture the president of Venezuela and take the president of Venezuela to the United States for trial for an offense. So we are discussing invasion in Venezuela and international law perspective. So we're looking at it from the ambit of the law. What does the law say? We're looking at it from the ambit of the law in respect to what the law says. So I have with me my colleague. I have with me my colleague. I have with me my colleague. Be sharing our view from the international law perspective on the invasion of US in Venezuela, as well as the capture of the president, the comments on the United States by Donald Trump on the the intention to run Venezuela's, and control their resources. Okay, so without wasting much time, I would like to hand over to my colleague, Mr. Goodluck. Are you with us? Can you please, Mr. Goodluck, can you please um, come online and join the section? Okay, so we are expecting Mr. Goodluck to join, but before he joins, let me give you a brief background of who he is. All right, so Goodluck Isaac is a law graduate from River State University, and when he was in university, he was the coursework for international law, and he's passionate and enthusiastic about international law. So I would like us to get his perspective on the US invasion in Venezuela, looking at international law. What does international law say? We are going to get his perspective on the matter. So without wasting much time, I will leave the floor for him to speak. Mr. Gulok, you have the floor.
All right. Good evening, everybody. All right. Good evening, good morning, good day, depending on the time you're watching this stream and from any part of the world where you are in. Right. So my name is Goodluck Isaac, and he has introduced me already. Recent graduate from the River State University. All right. So basically, let's start off with what happened. I'll be starting off with what happened on the 3rd of January 2026, where in the early hours of the morning, the sitting sovereign president was captured from his office, and it has brought about a lot of international rancor across the world, because what happens when the next president is sitting down in his bathroom and his country is invaded and they capture him? So you see the international bullies, like countries that have more military might arresting a president who has a lower military might. I don't know why, but let's believe God that at the end of the day, we'll be able to address it. So first of all, while walking through the course of today's program, I want to ask a question. How does it feel to be oppressed by someone? Like, how does it feel to know that, okay, yes, someone is oppressing you, you're seeing the person that is oppressing you, I know the person that is oppressing you. How does it feel to be in a shoes of an oppressee by an oppressor? Sometimes bullies are not just everyone you see. Bullies are not just those in secondary school that will take your lunch from you. No. Sometimes bullies are worth more than those that take your lunch. Sometimes the bullies are even your friends, even your parents too are the bullies. All right, no problem. So let's first of all start. International law. What's international law? International law is the law that governs the nation. That is the just ad bellum. So it's the law that governs relationships within nations, and it governs how nations treat each other. All right. So basically, first off, on the 3rd of January, we witnessed a very dangerous thing. And I can tell you it really, really pained me because I can't just sit and watch that at the end of the day, a president, a sovereign president was captured from his hometown. And honestly, it was really not, and it was not really an appealing something to hear about. All right. So basically, we start off with analyzing what happened. So we can see that in the early hours of the morning, around 12 or 1 in the morning on the 3rd of January, we woke up with the news hearing that there has been an invasion in Venezuela and in the capital of Venezuela, the president, after so many bombardments, the president was arrested. Right. So now we talk about that. Under international law, we talk about the use of force. Under international law, we talk about the use of force. Under the UN Charter, the UN Charter, which is the Charter of the United Nations, which came in force after the Second World War, the United Nations was formed as a result of this failure of the League of Nations to prevent the war from coming, Second World War from coming up. So after the Second World War, a lot of countries came together and said, okay, why don't we form a universal body that will govern the way things, that will govern the application of things. Right, so that's how the United Nations came about in the year 1943 or so. So basically, the, under the United Nations Charter, that is the constitution that governs the United Nations, under Article 2, Paragraph 4, it prohibits the use of force. That is, if you're a sovereign state and I am a sovereign state, the United Nations Charter prohibits the use of force by either of us. So the use of force is a grievous element under international law because once there's a use of force, automatically there's a war crime of, and it has a lot of consequences when the use of force is used. So to prevent wars from starting up, under Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the United Nations Charter, it maintains that the use of force or threat or dormant strength by sovereign states is prohibited. So that is country A and country B that are together.
Okay, he just left the call. I don't know what will have probably been responsible for that. We just lost him while he was, making a very salient point. Um, I don't know if you can hear me from your end. Okay, so he was talking about the use of force, right? So under international law, the use of force is prohibited by virtue of the UN Charter. The UN Charter is the treaty that binds all member states of the United Nations. So the use of force, which he was mentioning,
Sorry,
okay, he joined back. Okay, I was trying to keep
sorry,
them
the
in his
network.
line. Right.
Okay, okay. Sorry about that. The network is kind of bad. All right. So under the article sub two, Article 2, paragraph 4, which prohibits the use of force. So the United Nations Treaty maintains that once the use of force comes up, like there's going to be sanctions. And what are the elements that constitute the use of force? Use of militias, nuclear weapons, and bombardments. Those are the things that can constitute as use of force. So it's not just like, let me say, use your AK-47. No, it is the use of more advanced and sophisticated weapons and weaponry to engage in warfare against a fellow sovereign states. That's what use of force is all about. All right, so the Trump government so under the United Nations Charter, it provides that use of force is prohibited. So moving further, however, there's also a loophole wherein the use of force can be allowed. But wait, to justify the use of force, the United Nations said, okay, the use of force is going to be justified only if it can be proven that it is in response to a prior attack. That is, they must have first of all attacked you before you talk about your reasoning. They must have first of all attacked you before you talk about the use of force. You get? They must have first of all attacked you before you talk about the use of force. So that's what the United Nations that's what the United Nations Convention talks about in Article 51 in response to the Article 2, paragraph 4. So the United Nations treaty maintains that for you to use force, there must be a repellent attack. That is, you must not be the one to start it. So that is the use of force under the international law is not as a sword. Instead, it is as a shield to shield you from harm or to shield you from going into extinction. When you discover that, okay, so and let's just take for what happened in the First World War. I talked about the Jews and Adolf Hitler and the rest of it all. So you look at that instance that that they were about to wipe out an entire race of persons because of just one person's personal ambition to get. The use of force is not just to be used as a sword, it is supposed to be used as a shield. That is, you discover that, okay, party A and party B, party B is the weaker party, and party A is about to eliminate party B. It's about to destroy it totally. It has dropped a lot of bombardment and a lot of things. The the United Nations Treaty maintains that use of force at that instance is justiciable when it is used as a self-defense. So fast forward back, let's retrace our mind back to the event of the 3rd January 2025, sorry, 2026. So now you can see that when we ask the question, has Venezuela any attack against the the United States? The answer is no. The only candid reason for which there was an invasion was the fact that it was a drug threat. Constitute what is known sorry, drug threat does not constitute a valid ground for you to use force
or
because it
universal
is a
decision.
subtle sorry
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
okay. So it's a subtle element. It does not warrant you to use military bombardment and destroy things. All right. So you talk about so having moving forward from the use of force now, let's talk about statehood because you can see that first of all, there are three things that happened here. There was a breach of international principle of interventionism. There was an undermining of a state sovereignty, and there was a total disrespect for the rule of law of a state. All right, so let's start with what is a state. You know, growing up as a child, we hear that a state is just like a country or anything. But according to the Montevideo Convention of 1933, it says that it lists out four basic elements for which it can classify it as a state for a state to be valid. First of all, it must have a population, a defined population. It must have a definite territory, and it must also have a a defined government. It must be able to enter into relations with other persons, with other nations also too. So ask yourself this question: United States of America falls under that category, right? It has a defined population, it has a definite territory, it has a lot of relationship, bilateral and unilateral, with the whole world and with other nations, and it also has a government. Now, those are the characteristics that Venezuela also has as its own. So that's the day that Venezuela is also recognized as a state under United Nations. So now, one funny key thing is the both of these parties, the both of them
Conversation.
Nations Convention. They are to the United Nations Convention. So that is, they are signatories to the 1945 treaty that formed the establishment of the United Nations. They are signatory to it. Okay. So, sorry.
Okay, while we're waiting for him to come, I want to get a feedback from the house. I want to know if we are learning from this live stream. Are we benefiting? Can I see your hands? Say yes. Can I see you comment yes? You're benefiting so that we can know that yeah, we're actually speaking to persons who are benefiting from this live section. Um, if you can hear me, if you've been listening to this conversation and you're benefiting from it, can I get your feedback on the comment section while we wait for Mr. Goodluck to join us back? All right. So he was talking about the Montevideo Convention and the characteristics or the features of the state. So he was trying to point the features of the state, meaning sovereignty, population, defined territory, among others. He was trying to use that point to buttress to us that Venezuela is a state. Um, he's likely to argue the fact that Venezuela wasn't recognized. Venezuela's um, government, the President Nicolas' government was not recognized by the United States. I think we had a conversation with him, and I think that's what he's trying to portray to us. Please, if you can hear me, can you just comment yes, you can hear me? Let me know you're following this conversation. So while we wait for him to come, I would like to give you the international law perspective of what has just happened in Venezuela. So, can I see your comment, even if it's yes or hi? Let me know that you're with us. I can see Okonkwo Ndidi. He said hi. I can see you. Thank you for commenting. Okay, so now when we talk about the breach of international law, in this regard, one very salient aspect of the international law that have been disregarded is the United Nations Charter. The United Nations Charter is a charter that came about for the purpose of promoting world peace, right? Around 1946 or so. It came out for the purpose of promoting world peace. And so it tries to ensure that there is equality of states, the equality of states in rights. That's with with due reference, to the Article 2, paragraph 1, means it tries to ensure that there is equality of states so that a, a state in international law will not go and invade another state, But in the real sense of it, is there actually equality of states? Because some states have more political power, some states have more economic resources. So we ask ourselves that question: in the real sense of it, is there equality of states? One very um, example where we see that there's no equality is the veto power that is vested in the Security Council. That is the exception that most of us are conversant with. But we are surprised at what is happening today. If we say there's equality of states and Article 2, Paragraph 1 of the UN Charter makes that provision, why is that provision being disregarded by other powerful countries? First, what countries, what powers in the world who are members of the United Nations? I want to bring to our notice one very important section, which is section 2, paragraph 2, article 2, paragraph 2 of the United Nations Charter. Now, the article 2, paragraph 2 of the United Nations Charter talks about the need, the need for states to fulfill the obligations laid down in the UN Charter. It says that, I'm going to read verbatim, it says that the charter says that a member state of the United Nations shall fulfill in good faith the obligation assumed by them in accordance with the charter. And remember, I stated that section article 1. Okay, Mr. Goodluck has requested to join. We're hoping to see him join the conversation so he can continue. Um, I think he's having some network glitches from his end.
Right.
Please pardon us for that. So you can continue, Mr. Goodluck.
Okay. Sorry for everything. Sorry for everything. Dear Nigerians and whoever that is viewing it from any angle. Okay, so basically, as I was talking about the element of the state, I talked about the Montevideo Convention. Right? I talked about the Montevideo Convention that it lists out four elements, and if you look at the elements of the Montevideo Convention, Article 1 of the Montevideo Convention, you discover that both United States of America and Venezuela are both states. And now, once a state has a government and a state has a what's the name, has a different population, all these characteristics, so automatically it becomes a state, right? So the aspect of the United States of America invading a fellow sovereign state now is the aspect that we're about to tackle now because, first off, what constitutes a state has been stated, right? So you are a state, I'm a state. Which power do you have over me? We are both under a mother body known as the United Nations, right? So talking about the the invasion, we discover that it depicts it demeans the it weakened the sovereignty of the Venezuela state because tell me why a country like Venezuela, rich in oil and rich in gold, would be invaded and their sovereignty, their military might was overpowered. The civilians could not even sleep at night due to the bombardment that was happening at the moment here. And the way the president was captured, what dignity is there for the president that was captured? In under this section, under Nigerian Constitution 34 that talks about dignity of persons. So if a country like Nigeria recognizes that everybody has a dignity, what happens to the international body that recognizes such also that gives birth to the United Nations Charter on Human Rights, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which also recognizes the Declaration of the Dignity of a Person. So when we talk about the actions of the United States, I'll say yes, the United States erred in a way because the United Nations, which is the mother body, they provided under the section 2 stop, sorry, Article 2, paragraph 4 of the United Nations Convention that talked about the use of force. It went against the use of force and it frowns against it because once you use force on anything, no matter how good you are, once you use force on anything, that never remains the same. Let's apply it in our daily life. You're about to open your house door and you're trying to use force to force it open. Once you force that door open, no matter how good you are in forcing things open, once you force that door open, the door will never close the same way it was. So once you use force, that's why the United Nations frowns against force because they know that the use of force is something that once it is used, it never remains the same. You can see the after effect of the Hiroshima bomb blast. You can see how development was destroyed from there. All right, so it's not it's not a beautiful sight to hear in the early hours of the morning that United States were invaded the sovereign state of Venezuela. So moving further, we talked about recognition now. Talking about recognition, under international law, a state there are two types of recognition: recognition of a state and recognition of a government. Right. So moving further, the recognition of the government of Venezuela, the recognition of the government of the states, which is the Venezuela, they maintain that the Venezuela country is recognized under international law. That's it can make decisions for itself and it has the right to self-determination. That's it's recognized as a state. But however, there's a striking difference now. A state can be recognized, but the government of that state can be an illegitimate government, and across the world, it's not going to be recognized. So that's what exactly happened here now. The president Maduro, he the state of what led him to the chain of event that brought him to power is something that is questionable. According to the according to the European nations and other European bodies, illegitimate president of the Venezuelan country. So though the state might be recognized, yes, but the government of the state, the leadership of the state, the driving force of the state is not recognized. So the charges that were levied against him under the United Nations, under the United States, was that his drug threats and the other things like threats to the lives of the citizens, endangering them. But all those things cannot be proven; they are just paper words. All right. So going further, when we want to question the role of the United Nations now in this invasion, because tell me why United Nations frowns against it explicitly, the use of force, and at the end of the day, the same United Nations goes ahead. Sorry, the same United Nations goes ahead, and they've been silent since the invasion, which happened approximately 27 hours ago. So it's something that we should question because what then is the sovereignty? So what is the state of the sovereignty for the next person? What happens when the next president is trying to just, let me say, he's playing table tennis with his grandson and all of a sudden he's picked up from the tennis court? What happens? So the United Nations has been silent about the invasion because we want to know what's the way forward. Under international law, one of the remedies available to the country is national because remember I told you that the sovereignty of Venezuela has been undermined due to this bombastic and I don't know how to put it, I don't know how to categorize this invasion that happened early hours of yesterday, which is the 3rd of January. So it can seek the leave of the ICJ to enforce its sovereignty. And how does the ICJ enforce its sovereignty? The ICJ can give an order to restore back the president Maduro and his wife back into power, or they can also give back the possibility of conducting a fresh and new election. So we talk about, and that's what I want to talk about is now, if you watch the video of Mr. President of the United States of America, he said something. He said that the Venezuela country will now be run and administered by the United States. So that is a that is not supposed to be so in a civilized nation. It's not supposed to be so. Remember, I told you every nation state that has been recognized has its own sovereignty. Insofar as you have the four elements listed in the Montevideo Convention, you have your sovereignty. That's why, as a sovereign state, if you are, you come and start administering my own state from my own end. How are the things? So under the international law, the appropriate step to take now is for the people of Venezuela to have to enforce their right to self-determination. What is self-determination? Self-determination is the process of whereby you're projecting your identity, your belief onto something. You're projecting, yes, you're saying yes, you're trying to defend your existence. You're trying to create your own existence. That's what self-determination is all about. So when you look at it, the Venezuelan country or nation state, the United States don't have any right to administer leadership or government over them. Instead, they can enforce their right to. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Instead, they should enforce their right of self-determination, which is guaranteed under international law. So, going back, we talk about the prohibition of force and the self-defense. So, let me ask you a question. If Trump acted in self-defense, maybe there was a threat that we don't know on the United States or the citizens of the United States based on the territoriality principle under international law. If Trump acted in self-defense of what happened prior to now, does it go to the point of removing a sitting president or kidnapping a sitting president? Because I don't think as I don't think that the height of the height of the attack that must have happened to warrant a president to remove another president. It can't happen. He was democratically elected, but the election was flawed, yes. But the response of let me say his attack of the use of force, which is justified under Article 51, the attack of the use of force, I don't know if it is justiciable for him to say he removes the president because to what extent can one say, okay, it is self-defense? To what extent? Let's ask ourselves this question. To what extent can we plead the defense of self-defense responding to first threat by another person? To what extent can we prove this? Because at the end of the day, we look at things like this and we say, okay, that yes, maybe country was suffering, yeah, the country has must have attacked the United States. But at the end of the day, look at it and ask yourself, I attack you, you attack me. And at the end of the day, instead of you to attack me directly, attack my person, you attack my own. So it's just like you're in a gunfight. After we have played the gunfight, and you're done with the gunfight, you go to my house and you play gunfight with my little children, eliminating my little children. This is not part of the game. The gunfight was between me and you. So the hype that Donald Trump used by going the extra mile and removing him from the office is questionable. So the questions that we will ask ourselves based on what happened is this attack that happened in the early hours of 3rd January 2026, was it sanctioned by the United Nations Security Council? Because once they signed once they signed this treaty of the United Treaty and they make sure that they are subjected to doctrines and the principles and the guiding rules of the Security Council. So what the Security Council says is what happens. The Security Council is just like the administrative body of the United Nations, which consists of 5 permanent members, of which the United States is among and the United Kingdom and Russia is also among. So let's ask ourselves this question: that this attack that happened yesterday, was it sanctioned by the United Nations? And if yes, I remember that the United Nations don't use the forces of the United States. They have their own army which they use to enforce sanctions against war criminals, right? So the attack yesterday, was this sanctioned by the United States, United Nations? Was the United Nations, the Security Council, did they approve of that? Because yes, under Article
There's a
2,
report. There's a
paragraph.
report today from the United Nations. There's a report today from the United Nations that they're going to have a meeting tomorrow, which is Monday. I saw
Okay,
it
so
on the news.
let's hope for the positive outcome of this meeting tomorrow. Let's hope for the positive outcome of this meeting tomorrow. So under Article 2, paragraph 7 of the same United Nations Convention, it talks about the non-interference. It says that when whatever happens in your country is your business. That we don't have any business. We don't have any we are not even interested in what happens in your country. Whether the people are getting whether there's anything that how you administer the government of your country, how you administer the government of your country is subject to your own discretion. That is what the United Nations Convention, Article 2, paragraph 7 says. So how you administer your nation is subject to you. So it warns against interference by other states. So country A cannot come and tell country B how to govern themselves. So that interference now, one of the things that Trump did yesterday was he breached the principle of interference, which the United Nations frowns against. They maintain that every nation state is sovereign, that country A and country B, that no country has the right to depict how another country, oh, excuse me, that no country has the right to depict how another country should administer or conduct its own leadership. So the fact that the president of the United States of America invaded a country, and at the end of the day, not only does he invade the country, but he captured president, and he's now administering that country as a colon. That is not the United Nations, because under the United Nations Convention, non-interference is a principle things that govern the United Nations. There are two principles that are cordial in international relations. That is, you mind your business, I mind my business. That is Article 2, paragraph 7, and Article 2, paragraph 4. So those are the two principles that are mandatory, that are important in the international relations space. When you talk about all these things, you look at it, the actions yesterday, was it sanctioned by the United Nations? To what extent has this happened? Similar thing repeated itself by this same United States of America in 1981, whereby they invaded the Iranian country, and they did a lot of bombardments there. So we can see that they've done it not once. This is the second time they've done it. They've invaded. So the question is, what exactly? The question we ask ourselves is, what exactly or who exactly do we call sovereign at this point in time? Because when we ask ourselves that there are different countries all under the same United Nations, all under the same European Union and the rest of them, the rest of the international treaties, the International Labour Organization, World Trade Organization, and the rest of them. These countries all belong to them. So, what exactly is a sovereign? Because if a sovereign of another nation, then we ask ourselves that who is the sovereign? So, as citizens of a country, you ask yourself that if your president can be captured in broad daylight, you yourself as a citizen, so you yourself that is not that might be in, so that is, you can be in London today, and by evening you're facing trial in the United States of America for an offense you committed. So that exactly is the sovereign. So yes, the neighborhood principles apply under international law. In the law of thought, there's this neighborhood principle. So it also applies under international law because yes, that it says that you are my neighbor and you should mind your business. So don't press your border to come and solve my problem. That is Article 2, paragraph 7. So in the aspect of that, President Maduro, though he's not charged with any crime against any international court, any crime against humanity and crime against war crimes, which is rape, torture, and the rest of it. But however, he's just only charged with a drug threat, and we have seen this. Sorry.
Hello, can you hear me? I don't know, probably we lost him due to network glitches. Okay, so while we wait for him to return to the call, return to the live, I will just take what I have here. So far, he's been able to mention the the various provision of the United Nations Charter that was breached by the United States by President Donald Trump administration in the process of invading Venezuela and then and then capturing the president, taking the president to the United States. Due process of law was not followed. The due process of law recommended under the UN Charter. Under the UN Charter, we have in Article 2, Paragraph 3 of the UN Charter provides a means for resolving disputes within international disputes with two or more nations. You know, it provides under That's that's article, and also chapter 6, which refers to the International Court of Justice. So they can see we can see that the United States failed to follow this process in resolving this dispute. We can see some level of self-help, what is found that even in domestic legislation, you can see some level of self-help in the international arena, and that is something that we should not allow. States, members of the international community, member countries of the United Nations are saying that this is a dangerous precedent. The United Nations, China, a lot of these countries are condemning this because anybody could be a victim. Anybody could be the next. We don't know who could be the next person that will be handpicked by the United States. You know, we should not allow this level of arbitrariness. We should allow due process, because if it were to be some states who are violent, violence would have moved or might have erupted, and that would generate into loss of lives and properties that ordinarily should not be. Right. So I think there are various provisions of the United Nations Charter that have been breached by the United States President in this particular action, or in this line of action he has decided to take. Please, if you're with me, can I just get your comments on the section? If you have anything to say, you can just type it on the comment section. So the breached key provisions of the Nations Charter. United Nations Charter have been established already. Another important point that the speaker raised was the issue of self-determination. Self-determination is the right of every state to determine. When the United States president made mention of him bringing some persons from the United States who rule the country, that one is a no-no. Now that is a no-no, and the speaker has commented on it. You know, when you talk about right to self-determination, right to self-determination is into two. We have the external, we have the internal. The Venezuela government, the citizens have the internal right to self-determination to manage their oil resources, to manage their oil contracts. So the United States had gone beyond their powers in not trying to constitute a government for these Venezuela people, whereas they have a government. Even if the president have been captured, they still have the vice president. They have other machineries of government. So I think they went beyond their powers in trying to constitute a government that is against the right to self-determination as provided in Article 1, Paragraph 2. The speaker is here. I'm going to let him speak when he's ready to speak. Article 1, Paragraph 2, and Article 55 of the United Nations Charter. Self-determination is very important. So, having they breached this United Nations Charter, they have breached a international principle of pacta sunt servanda, meaning that agreements must be kept. Because this treaty, in its sense, this United Nations Charter create an agreement between nations. So they have breached the United Nations Charter, and they have also breached a certain principle of law, which is known as pacta sunt servanda. We also have other UN declaration that actually emphasizes these rights of a country to control its own resources. We have the Declaration of non-interference adopted by UN General Assembly. We have that declaration, non-intervention rather, the Declaration of Non-Intervention that prevents foreign countries from intervening in the affairs of another country. We have those declarations in the United Nations General Assembly. So we understand that US is one of the countries with veto power, but carrying out this action unilaterally has sent this perspective that the United Nations is weak, because they're supposed to act in nature. It matters that they're supposed to follow due process and then act in line with the charter, the United Nations Charter, for we to have world peace. Good luck. I will leave for you to continue so that I can wrap up. You have spent considerable time. You can just use 3 minutes to wrap up so that we can take questions on the comments.
I'll end with this question. Was the UN formed to was the United Nations formed to see to the fact that countries with mightier military presence or mightier militia bully countries with lesser militia? We've seen this thing play out timeless times without numbers. We see countries oppressing countries all in the name of sovereignty, and declaration of sovereignty. We've talked about recognition of states. We can see country pulling the recognition card and saying, okay, your state is recognized, but your government is not recognized. So, what power is bestowed on countries? What power is bestowed on countries for them to bully fellow countries? My last question is, how long will it continue? Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goodluck, for that very, very interesting conversation. Even though you had some network issues, those who are stick with this conversation will say that they have learned one or two important aspects of international law that was breached by the United States by virtue of that invasion in Venezuela. All right. So, as the host, I would like to add one or two to this conversation. Please, if you have a question, do well to put down your question on the comments box so that we can have them answered. So, while I wait for you for them to write down their question with respect to what the speaker has said, while he was having network issues, I was trying to explain some of the things he has said, and he talked about one very important one, which is the infringement of right to self-determination. Point out the certain sections of the United Nations Charter that are in breach by virtue of this US invasion. But one very important thing, the speaker has been able to, you know, do justice. He has spoken wonderfully well. As a matter of fact, I'm leaving here more informed than as I came. But one very important aspect that we have to ask ourselves is that, does the criminal jurisdiction of the state, because now the United States, we have to analyze their reason. They are trying him for narco terrorism and involving involving gangs. All right, but we have to accept that question that since it is not an offense that could invoke universal jurisdiction, since it is not an offense that fall under the jus cogens provision, then we have to look at the criminal jurisdiction of states over international matter. We are already aware that according to analysis from the National Code of Criminal Law, Civil Procedure, Criminal Procedure, and the writings of international publicists, discloses five general principles on, you know, criminal jurisdiction, or when a criminal jurisdiction can be claimed at present times. We have the number one, which is territorial principle. We have the nationality principle. We have the protective principle. We have the universality principle. We also have the last but not the least is the passive personality principle. So each of these principles have the like territory. If the offense is committed within the territory of a state, then the state can assume jurisdiction to try that offense. I'm still waiting. If you have the question, please don't forget to put the question in the question box, in the comment box, so that we can get them answered. So territorial principle is if the offense committed within the territory of the United States, then the United States can assume jurisdiction to hear that matter, right? We have the nationality principle, which means that offender, if the person committing the offense is a United States national can prosecute. All right, United States can prosecute. We also have the passive personality principle, which means that if the victim of the offense, for example, now as we have the Venezuela case, if the victims of those narco trading, is a citizen of US, the US can assume jurisdiction, criminal jurisdiction, to prosecute. But now in this case, you can see that the perpetrator of the alleged crime now is not in the US, and now he's a president of another nation. That is where the complication arises. He's a president of another nation who is quoted with immunity. by virtue of his national and domestic law. So the question now is, does the criminal jurisdiction of states override the national immunity of a public officer in another state? Does the fact that US have, okay, if for example now US is trying to claim the passive personality principle to prosecute, does it override does it override the does it override the national immunity that protect that president? That is the first. Now the second, the last one now is the protective principle, where if the US can claim that the act of the Venezuela president is affecting their territory or their citizens. Sometimes we have something like arson, treason, printing of currencies, in a way that can affect the country and then their citizens. This narco trading now, can they prove that it affect their country and their citizens? Okay, even if they are able to prove that it affect their states and then their citizens. But how do they, since it's extraterritorial in nature, it does not occur within their territory, and then it is not their citizens that perpetrated this alleged offense. They have to wait until the president of Venezuela finish his tenure and then find his way around US so that they can get him. But now you can see that the process in which they got the president, in which they captured the offense international law, the process. We have what we call extradition. Extradition for the purpose of trial. It would it would have been difficult for the president to be extradited. I'm looking at the criminal jurisdiction of states to prosecute. You know, so I'm looking at this very important issue that have been raised by virtue of this event, which is, does the criminal jurisdiction of states, which are those nationality principle, territorial principle, protective principle, universality principle, does it override the national immunity of a public officer in another state? This president has immunity. The way in which he was captured shows the use of force and failure to follow due process. Of course, this is a president. This is two nations. He is a representative of his nation. Probably they would have used the international court of justice to prosecute rather than prosecuting under their local law. So I've just told you that the US can prosecute if they hinge under this protective principle or passive personality principle, but issues will still arise in the manner in which the Venezuela president was captured and you know due process not being followed. So having said that, the aspect of the United States wanting to control the resources of the Venezuela people offends international law greatly. As a matter of fact, we have the United Nations General Assembly Resolution of 1962 that gives developing countries the power of permanent sovereignty over natural resources. We have it in the United Nations General Assembly Declaration. So we've seen as this kind of thing play out in the past, and so laws have been made, but the flagrant disregard for these laws can usher the international community in a state of anarchy. International law have to be respected. International law, is it actually a law? Because is it sanctionable? These are the issues that arises. People start asking the question again: is international law actually a law with what is happening, and what kind of sanction can the United Nations give? Of course, it's very important that you look at the reason that the United Nations, the reason the United States are giving for justification of their, entry and all of that. We have to look at them so we can balance up the view and then cross check if actually that reason is sufficient enough in international law. But I have just given you some of the areas that they are likely to base their power to prosecute in the first place, because he's not the president of Venezuela is not a national. of the United States, and I've given you two principles, which are the protective principle and then the passive nationality principle, because it's not a universal crime, so they cannot go under universal principle. All right. So without wasting much of your time, we have spent some time in this meeting. I think we have discussed quite an exhaustive point. I would like to get your comment section, what you have to say about this. If you have any question, please do want to comment. Um, while I wait for Mr. Goodluck to give his closing remark. Is he here? Do you have any comments? Please, I can see that there are some persons who are in this meeting. Do you have any comment? Just comment. If you feel like it was impactful, I would like to get your feedback also. How was the section? Can I get your feedback? How was the section? Or you joined late? Can you let me know if you joined late? Okay, so I think we have reached our time limit for the day for the for this discussion. Another case that I think we should take notice of is the Pinochet case. The Pinochet case only stated that the immunity of a president can be disregarded if he has committed an offense that is universal in nature that breaches the Jews code. But in this case, this offense did not breach the Jews code. So it is a novel area that the International Court of Justice, will have to decide. If you look at the Pinochet case, like I mentioned, the Pinochet case, the court stated that where the offense committed by the officer with immunity breaches the Jews coding provision, then he can be immunity can be waived in international law. But in this case, the offense that have been alleged is not does not offend the international customer. It's not Jews coding in nature. It's not universal in nature. So this makes it a bit more complex why immunity cannot be waived in this case. So a lot have been said so far. If you have any question, while I'm waiting for the question, I would like to get your final remark. Good luck, Mr. Good luck, on this whole issue. What are your recommendations to the government of United States and Venezuela government, because they are at a crossroad now. They are seeking advice from well meaningful citizens across the world, because it can happen anywhere. Since it has happened there, so I would like to get your point and recommendation for them.
All right. Okay.
I can hear you. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Basically, first things first. Let me just retrace our mind back to something. Prior to now, domestically in Nigeria, yeah, a sitting governor was removed from power by a president, and a lot of rancors were stepped up on because of it, and we're like, okay, that's it. So now, something like that similarly played out in the international room. When that governor was suspended, we asked ourselves this question. So that is, I and the president has issue as the governor. The president will suspend me. So we asked ourselves this question also to internationally, that now that he has set the ball rolling and he has captured the president, a sovereign president, what how long will it take before before that virus spreads and you see Russia entering Taiwan, or Russia entering Algeria and arresting the president? Or is it Japan or China or any of these big bullies, sorry, international countries, before that virus spread? So first, the remedy should be a reinstatement of the president. That's the first remedy because if the president is not reinstated, it has set a precedent that yes, the president was removed. You can reinstate the president and have a side agreement just to calm down because it can happen tomorrow that the president of Ghana be arrested by the president of Japan or the prime minister of Japan or Israel or any of those countries. So first things first, the president must
Thank you.
be
I can see your
reinstated. That is the
comments
first remedy.
inside the section. Here like B, I can see. Thank you for your comments. You can go on. Good.
Okay. So if there's no reinstatement of that, I don't think anything they can do. I don't think any action at the United Nations or United Nations Tribunal or the ICJ can restore back their sovereignty because the first of all, the first point of sovereignty is their president. So the first things first, the remedies first is the United States should let go of the president that was captured and they should actually reinstate him. Then after the reinstatement, if possible, conduct a free and fair election, within Venezuela. And after the conduct of free and fair election, swear in the new president, and they can go back and arrest the old president that is sworn in because their time in office has then the second point of contact is sanction. Because if the United States of America is not sanctioned, definitely other bigger countries will also replicate such acts. So the sanction should be on the United States of America because no matter how powerful he is, he should respect the sovereignty of the next nation. So at least the United Nations should sanction United States. At least, if possible, economic sanction that at least they can respect themselves and know that okay, yes, this is more serious. So that was just my suggestion. Then for Venezuela, um, I think they should just go and appeal to the ICJ and to the from the ICJ. I think they should also go to the United Nations to make sure that yes, the administration by Trump running the country from behind is not going to work. That instead they should have the right to self determination. So that is my second advice to Venezuela is they should go on and have their self determination because it is under international law. So I think they should equip themselves way and go all out and determine their leadership, their internal leadership. Because if they don't, the country is going to be run by an alien which is not from Venezuela. So that will be all for now. Thank you, Arinze.
Okay, thank you very much for those very stated points and recommendation. I just believe that the government of Venezuela and the United States are hooked up to this conversation so that they can get one or two points from you that they can take home to implement so that we can have stability, world stability. As what you said, a lot of countries have condemned this invasion, and every the smaller countries are even afraid, as a matter of fact, because they don't know who is next. So we don't just allow a state to yield this so much power, you know, as much as this to enter forcefully, pick a sitting president, the president that is a symbol of the state sovereignty, pick the sitting president, and then fly him to another country. It's not done anywhere. That is high level of anarchy in international realm. And we are urging the United Nations to, as a matter of urgency, sit on this matter. The Security Council that makes up the permanent members who are also world powers should sit and give recommendations and then work with the ICJ on interpretation of some of these action of the law and the actions of the United States and give recommendations in accordance to the outcomes in accordance to the international United Nations Charter and then give sanction where necessary so that others member states will be discouraged who are world powers will be discouraged from following these precedents. Like the European Union rightly said, United Nations has said, China has condemned Russia. A lot more countries are saying this is a dangerous precedent. And we as international law students, for the first time, we are hearing such a thing, happen. It's an interesting time indeed because this is beyond what we learned in school. We are seeing a more interesting fact play out, and there is high need for us to come together and look at these points that have been made, dissect them, and then come out with recommendation, because this is not a destructive criticism. This is an academic discussion with outcomes that are constructive, that can help build a better international community. So, Mr. Goodluck, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for those impactful knowledge that you have given to us today. I must say you delivered it so wonderfully well. We have both local and international um, audience who are joining to this live conversation with us, and I believe that they are living with this call, having learned something that they can take home and then share with their peers, their families, and let people know the extent to which international law and charter. Okay, someone is saying thank you on the comment section. Tio Conco, thank you very much for joining. So that people can have what they will say to their peers, when they leave this conversation, and they can continue to make sure that the rule of law is preserved internationally, right? Thank you very much. I enjoyed your teaching. I must say, me myself, I'm living here more better in terms of the knowledge I had in international law and the extent to which the international law has been breached by the United States, as well as your recommendation too. So, without wasting much of our time, we'll call it a day. I don't know if you have any other business, so we can close the meeting for today, for tonight.
Oh,
All
okay.
right. So
For now,
okay,
I
you can
just,
go on.
as you have said everything. So the document I prepared as regards this class due to the medium of usage where I'm not used to modern facilities. So I'm in Romania, so I'm not used to modern facilities like this. So I couldn't send across the document that I prepared. So I will send the document across to the host, Mr. Arinze, my legal brother. So for those of you that are interested in getting the knowledge which I've prepared and maybe even hearing this network and other things, I hope when you go through my document, I hope you'll be able to get at least you'll be abreast with the point of law as regards the happenstances on the 3rd of January 2026.
Thank you very much for that. Please do send across. I don't know how we send to some of them. I don't know the various media they are joining from, where they join from, but I will do my best to publicize in various areas I posted the video. Also, I would like to encourage you to subscribe to this channel. If you find it impactful, just click on the like button and then give us a like. Subscribe to this channel, because from time to time we'll be having more interesting discussions like this. I think you'll find them more interesting. So subscribe so you can continue to get more updates from this channel whenever we are going live, or whenever we're planning to have such kind of discussion subsequently. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate the time. Mr. Goodluck, thank you for joining us. And thank you to
My
our
pleasure.
audience who had, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you to the audience who had stick with us despite the network glitches. They were still tuned to the meeting. Have enjoyed every bit of it, and I think you all have also enjoyed it. Thank you. See you in our next meeting. Bye for now.
All right. Do have a good night rest. Enjoy yourself.
Bye.
Peace. And remember, peace is the essence of living. Bye.